So I'm going to show you a video of Lindsey Graham. He's talking with Chris Wallace. They're looking at the impeachment. They're discussing what happened. And I want you to just notice how his tone shifted after January 6th and see how he defends Trump and some of the techniques that he uses in defending Trump.
That's where they should be done.
But in the end, both sides agreed, no witnesses. Next, closing arguments.
He abused his office by siding with the insurrectionists at almost every point, rather than with the Congress of the United States.
The former president's attorneys defended their client without wavering.
This has been perhaps the most unfair.
Okay, real quick, one of the things I wanted to say with that, when they say Trump sided with the insurrectionists, he recorded that video in which he said that he loved them. He talked about how they had been treated so badly, but he told them that he loved them and to go home, and that he knew how they felt. So that's why they say that he was siding with the insurrectionists.
Fair and flagrantly unconstitutional proceeding in the history of the United States Senate.
Chris, former President Donald Trump out with a statement from Florida last night. I want to read part of it to you. He says, "I have always and always will be a champion for the unwavering rule of law, the heroes of law enforcement, and the right of Americans to peacefully and honorably debate the issues of the day without malice and without hate." Meanwhile, the current president...
Okay, keep in mind, he didn't reach out to the officer that was killed in the riots. He didn't reach out to the family. At least in January, there were news stories about how he hadn't reached out to the officer's family or said anything about that officer. There's video where it looks like he's just getting hit with flagpoles and people are kicking him when he's down. And so for Trump to say that he supports law enforcement, but then not really talk about that, like that contradicts what he said right there.
Biden out with a statement condemning violence, saying the United States needs to move forward, underlining the word united in United States. Chris?
And joining us now, Republican Senator Lindsey Graham. Senator, welcome back to Fox News Sunday.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Senator, let me ask you, have you spoken to President Trump since the acquittal yesterday? And if so, what was his reaction?
Yeah, I spoke to him last night. He was grateful to his lawyers. He appreciated the help that all of us provided. You know, he's ready to move on and rebuild the Republican Party. He's excited about 2022, and I'm going to go down to talk with him next week, play a little golf in Florida. And I said, Mr. President, this MAGA movement needs to continue. We need to unite the party. Trump plus is the way back in 2022. He's mad at some folks, but I understand that. My goal is to win in 2022, to stop the most radical agenda I've seen coming out of the Democratic presidency of Joe Biden. We can't do that without Donald Trump, so he's ready to hit the trail, and I'm ready to work with him.
Well, let me ask you about one person that he might be mad at, and tell me if he is or he isn't. Mitch McConnell, who made a curious speech yesterday in which he basically said the president is guilty, but that the Senate doesn't have the power to convict, to act against a former president. What did he think of McConnell's speech? What did you think of McConnell's speech?
Well, number one, I was a bit surprised, but I heard this in 1998. I've been in 3 of the 4 impeachments. I'm sorry about that. But the bottom line, in 1998, you had a lot of Democrats acquit Clinton, but got on the floor and said how bad he was. So, you know, Nancy Pelosi called us all cowards. I don't think most Republicans care what she thinks. And I think Senator McConnell's speech, he got a load off his chest, obviously. But unfortunately, he put a load on the back of Republicans. That speech...
So keep in mind, when he talks about being there in 1998, Lindsey Graham was one of the people that literally voted to impeach Bill Clinton over lying about a BJ. But then, with what happened with Trump on January 6th, he voted to acquit him. So that just tells you the rank partisanship, partisan hack that Lindsey Graham really is.
you will see in 2022 campaigns. I would imagine if you're a Republican running in Arizona or Georgia or New Hampshire, where we have a chance to take back the Senate, they may be playing Senator McConnell's speech and asking you about it as a candidate. And I imagine if you're an incumbent Republican, there are going to be people asking you, will you support Senator McConnell in the future? So I like him, Senator McConnell. He worked well with President Trump. I think his speech is an outlier regarding how Republicans feel about all this. I thought the impeachment trial was not only unconstitutional, I condemn what happened on January the 6th, but the process they used to impeach this president was an affront to rule of law. He's the first president to ever be impeached without a lawyer, without a witness, without ability to confront those against him, and the trial record was a complete joke, hearsay upon hearsay, and we've opened Pandora's box to future presidents. And if you use this model, I don't know how Kamala Harris doesn't get impeached if the Republicans take over the House, because she actually bailed out rioters, and one of the rioters went back to the streets and broke somebody's head open. So we've opened Pandora's box here, and I'm sad for the country.
Does Donald Trump bear any responsibility for the attack on the Capitol on January 6th?
No. In terms of the law, no. He bears responsibility of pushing.
Real quick, if you go back and watch that, just rewind it a little bit, you can see him nodding yes, and then he catches himself, and then no, according to the law, Trump does not have responsibility. He catches himself after he had been nodding yes.
Narratives about the election that I think are not sound and not true, but this was politically protected speech. The speech on January the 6th was not an incitement to violence. Every politician has used the word fight hard, so I don't think he caused the riot. His behavior after the election was over the top. There was a pre-planned element to this attack, Mr. Wallace, that we need to look at. Did Nancy Pelosi know on January the 5th that there was a threat to the Capitol? What did President Trump do after the attack? We need a 9/11 commission to find out what happened, to make sure it never happens again. And I want to make sure that the Capitol footprint can be better defended next time. So I want to look at what Pelosi knew when she knew it, what President Trump did after the attack, and on the Senate side, was Senate leadership informed of a threat? So there was a pre-planned element to this attack, totally unconnected with the speech. And I thought the managers failed miserably in making the case.
Let's pick up on something that you specifically talked about. Let's look at the timeline of what happened that day, especially after the riot began. At 2:24, the president tweets, "Mike Pence didn't have the courage to do what should have been done to protect our country and our Constitution." 2 minutes later, at 2:26, the president speaks to Senator Tommy Tuberville, who tells him Vice President Pence has been evacuated from the Senate. Around that time, the House Republican leader, Kevin McCarthy, calls the president, pleading with him to do whatever he can to call off the rioters. When the president says he thinks that it was actually Antifa that was involved, McCarthy told Republican Congresswoman Jamie Herrera Butler that he had to persuade the president it was his own folks who did it. Take a look at this exchange.
These are your people. You know, they have MAGA hats on. And the president's response to him was, well, Kevin, I guess they're just more concerned about this election than you are.
What does that tell you, Senator, about how the president viewed the riot while it was happening?
Doesn't tell me a whole lot because it's all hearsay. Why don't we have a 9/11 investigation? I think it's at 2:28 he told people to be peaceful. He tweeted out several times at 4 o'clock he did a video basically to be peaceful and leave. Could the president done more? Yeah. Did he incite this riot by his speech?
Okay, him saying that it's all hearsay, of course that's going to be convenient for him. What else is he going to say when he's a big Trump supporter and he usually defends Trump? Understand that lady that was telling that story, she's a congresswoman who was interacting with Kevin McCarthy, another congressman. So these aren't just like random people on the streets making these stories up. Like, these are politicians. If there's anyone to really like look at and examine their stories, it's these people. Him saying that they're going to do a big commission investigation, see what Nancy Pelosi knew, just recognize that as a deflection. Instead of being more concerned about just the facts of what happened, where you can clearly see Trump's speeches over the course of months leading up to the election, then after the election, you can clearly see his tweets. There was this conversation on the phone with officials in Georgia. Lindsey Graham's not focused on any of that. He's focused on an investigation to find out what Nancy Pelosi knew. It's a red herring. It's a smoke and mirrors tactic. Understand that with the impeachment, the facts were not on the side of Lindsey Graham and Donald Trump and those Republicans that were backing Trump, and so they have to try to attack the procedure. If the procedures would have been hypothetically perfect, Lindsey Graham and the others would have found something else to kind of distract everyone. They're never going to just say, like, yeah, Trump was wrong in this situation, so he should be impeached. It's not that easy. Him bringing up that Kamala shouldn't have let rioters go, again, that's a red herring, but I will say this much. Yeah, she shouldn't have. A lot of those Black Lives Matter rioters were horrible. And those that were looting, they should be held accountable. I'm not going to argue that looting a business is the same as breaking into the Capitol. It's obviously not. But honestly, if we want to progress as a society, those that might be even center-left or center-right, we need to condemn our own sides. And I will say that Black Lives Matter rioters were in the wrong. Some of the ideas of people that promote critical race theory, the idea that there's no truth and that science and math are Eurocentric, cis-het white men, power structures, I think that those ideas are ridiculous and they should be rejected by people on the left because, honestly, it turns off moderates, it turns away objective intellectual people, and it makes Democrats look extreme. Critical race theory should be rejected.